And welcome back to the channel, and most importantly, to each a good day. Well, if you haven't already figured it out from the thumbnail, what you can see here is our newest project, fresh straight from the auction. What you can, if this isn't already a dead giveaway, but the spotlight on the driver's side A-pillar, and of course the big brush guard slash pull bumper on the front. This is a 2018 Dodge Charger all-wheel drive or pursuit vehicle, as it's more commonly referred to in Mopar's parts diagrams and such. Now, with this being a ex-police car, and as you can see, it is, like I said, straight from the factory. It is quite dirty, and that's going to be our goal for today, is at least getting hopefully the exterior and the interior both taken care of, depending on kind of what the weather is going to do to us here. But again, straight fresh from the auction, and with this also being a police version of a all-wheel drive Charger, we have the bigger 5.7 Hemi in here. So we don't have the V6, we got the bigger V8. So just to give you a little bit of tour, one of the reasons why we bid on this vehicle, and I was really looking for one, is because they are kind of a unique vehicle. And if you watch the other videos on this channel, we're kind of into the more unique builds and kind of one-off type builds. And with this being an all-wheel drive model, I've been looking for one of these for a while. And most importantly, with this being an ex-police vehicle, as you can see here, because of what they did to it when it went to auction, kind of piqued my interest. Now, a lot of times when you get these at auction, you'll still have like the A-pillar light you see here, but a lot of times they'll take the interior and they'll revert it back to what it looked like for its civilian counterpart. But as you can see on this one, yes, and it is dirty, it does need a good cleaning. You can see the center console that they would use. It's an aftermarket municipality type police center console. You can see that was actually left in place, so we don't have the factory one there anymore. And you probably have already seen it, but the protection measures that protect, I should say, the suspects in the rear from the officers up front, you can see has also been left in place. And you can also probably already see it from here, but we'll open up a door and show you a bit better. But you can see the bars actually have been also left in the rear window. So it made it kind of a unique find to find one of these, again, going up for auction, where they hadn't pulled out the center console and kind of, you know, most of the interior and reverted it. And there's one other thing in the back seat I need to show you as well. We'll get that here in a second. But overall, it's not, you know, it's not terrible in here. Like I said, it does need a good cleaning, which is no problem at all. We can definitely take care of that. And that is the goal for today, like I said earlier, depending on how the weather is going to hold up for us, because it is quite overcast today, but it's not supposed to rain for a while yet. But just continuing our tour, they even left the modifications to the rear doors. You can see here where they've got these covers in place instead of the normal door panels, so it doesn't have the internal hardware to be able to roll down the windows and or even open the doors from the inside. It just has this panel that you should see here. It also doesn't have the factory rear seat. It's got this plastic type, easy to wash out and clean and maintain type back seat, and I'll leave that to your imagination as to why this would need to be cleanable. And as you can see, yes, it does need a good thorough scrub down. It looks to be, you know, we've got quite a bit of smears of mud and stuff back here. At least I'm gonna tell myself that that's mud. Don't worry, we'll be gloved up when we do all this. And again, we're just going to say that it's mud and we're going to leave it at that. But you can kind of get again, you can see the door panel on the other side is still the security type door panel, if you want to call it that. Again, it just made it a bit more unique that they actually left all of this on here. The nice thing about having this piece here is that this is some nice heavy gauge steel, and it makes up to be like a little bit of a roll cage. And again, the plan is we're going to leave this interior in here pretty much the way that it sits. Obviously, we're going to go through and give this thing a nice good wipe down and a scrub down, and we may take all of these plastic components you see here, at least this and the door panels. At least right now, what we're thinking we're going to do is just take these out, potentially just paint these black, and then immediately just reinstall them. Now, this was sold as a run and drive, and you can still see remnants of, you know, some of the decals that used to be on here, as well as you can see a lot of the dirt. Now, it does have a lot of wiring, as you would expect that it would, because it's got to maintain like a lot of systems that law enforcement would use, such as laptops, GPSs, cameras, things of that nature. And you can see a lot of that wiring poking out here on the passenger side of the compartment. Now, some of this is factory, a lot of this is not. What we also need to do is kind of take some of these panels off, trace down a lot of this wiring, and actually remove it, because it's wiring that we're not going to need. Plus, I would like to get a better gauge of exactly what they've done to the electrical system in this car. In other words, what wiring harnesses have been tapped into versus which ones have not. These police or pursuit versions of the Chargers, when they're going to go to a fleet or be used by law enforcement, have what's called a VSIM device, and that's a vehicle systems interface module, and that's meant to allow aftermarket upfitters that would normally come in and take this vehicle and turn it into the law enforcement vehicle that we know, that module gives them a way to interface with the vehicle and have that module turn certain things on in their equipment. That module can also export data about the vehicle into their recording devices and such. So we'll have to check to see if that is still in use, but as well as pull a lot of these panels up and look and see where a lot of these aftermarket wiring, such as you see this right here, we've disconnected some of this. They had some, looks to be about 1 gauge, I believe that's about 1 or 2 gauge heavy duty wire that was going straight to the battery. They had this tap here going. They had another tap over here, you see, coming off the positive distribution terminal on this rear distribution block here in the trunk. They had another tap going into one of the fuses here in the distribution panel as well. So we took the fuse out of this one, so we disconnected at least 3 extra positive taps that they had going on. And we wanted to, again, we just want to pull a lot of this up, figure out a lot of where this is going, and then pull a lot of this out of here, because a lot of this aftermarket wiring, again, we're not going to use, and we want to get a good indication. Let me get you in there so you can see that. We want to get a good indication of what our wiring looks like and make sure there's been no harnesses hacked into that we need to account for. And you can see some more cut off wiring right there. You can see this bigger extra positive lead they ran, which is going that way. It looks like we've got another yeah, it looks like we got a fuse. You can see right there. Let me see what you can see here. There we go. You see we got an aftermarket, looks like 80 amp heavy duty fuse that is taking that feed off that battery and then going somewhere this way with it. We want to track that down and just kind of get all that disconnected. And the reason why I'm saying a lot of this, the reason why we want to go through this is, A, again, we just want to know what the health status of the electrical system of the vehicle is, and B, we have an electrical gremlin that we need to track down. Now, this vehicle was sold as a run and drive, which is 100% correct. It is a run and drive. However, the battery back here, when it arrived from auction, was completely spanked. wouldn't really hold a charge at all. And if you know anything about these Chargers, they're extremely picky about their electrical system. You know, the battery needs to be top notch in the back. Even though you have a good functioning alternator up front, if the battery back here is smoked, you will see a lot of weird electrical gremlins. So we've since got a new battery. We're hoping that takes care of our gremlins, but we may need to do some electrical troubleshooting, which we'll bring to you in a future video if it comes down to that. What's currently happening with this vehicle is that it will start, it will run, it will drive, but if you occasionally, when you put it in a gear, or if you're just starting off from a stop, the entire vehicle will momentarily power down. So you'll lose power to the inside, the dash, everything. The engine will sputter a little bit. And I looked up the wiring diagram for the cluster because it was one of the things losing power. And the cluster actually gets its power feed directly. It's either from that distribution, I don't believe it's that distribution block. Looking at the wiring diagrams, it looks like it actually comes directly from the rear distribution box here in the trunk. And like I said, considering it was affecting the entire vehicle, I don't think it's a short in the harness, but again, that's the reason why we kind of want to get a lot of these panels out of the way, figure out a lot of where their third-party wiring was going to, and just make sure that items that aren't in use are going to be disconnected, because we don't want some of their wiring hanging around like this to potentially causing us a short and leading to our issues. But I know that was a lot. So just to show you the passenger side here, get a little bit better view of the interior. Again, it's got the security cover on here to keep individuals who are in the back from exiting the vehicle of their own accord. And you can see that this passenger side door cover has a very common problem that Chargers have, and that is, you can see the door panel here is starting to warp and peel back. And there are various methods to be able to kind of fix this online, but to tell you the truth, I've already sourced a new set of door covers, passenger and driver, from eBay. They're in shipment, but we'll cover that here in a different video, and we're just going to go ahead and just outright replace this one. Actually, we'll replace them both, but you can see the passenger side is the worst one. And here's a shot of the passenger side. You can see the seat's actually in a really good condition. It's a little bit dirty. It needs to be vacuumed out, but that's no biggie. You can see that we still have our big old mount here for our well, I don't want to say it because this will be in a YouTube video, but if you've seen the inside of a police car before, you know exactly what this mount is used for, or I should say can be used for. But there's a better idea of the aftermarket center console. Yes, it is all made out of metal. And you can see that we've got various cigarette lighter power tops at the top. Now, I may take some of those out and replace them with items that look more like this. You can see you've got some additional ones here on the side. Looks like you got 2 more cigarette lighters for power here. And it looks like that is for your Uconnect radio plug-in. Now we may take some of these out, like I said, and just replace them with the ones that you can kind of get off Amazon and such that have USB ports in them. So that way we don't have to carry around a bunch of adapters with us. But the nice thing is, if we can get all these working, we got plenty of power taps to use. But you can see a lot of the rat's nest of extra wiring that's been added to this vehicle that we need to go through, figure out what we need to keep and what we don't need to keep. And a lot of this is actually going to be coming out of here once we have time to get this center console out, because again, if the battery doesn't fix the electrical issues we have, it could very well possibly be something that was added to this, that it looks like when they did the decommission on this vehicle, they just went through and just kind of ripped everything out that they wanted to keep, and just kind of, again, you can see stuff like that where there's a nice big positive line that's just clipped, just dangling, touching up against metal. So this is the kind of stuff we're looking for that we need to get out of here and clean up. Yeah. And then once we're done, we'll either find something to put inside this hole here, or we'll see if we can just get another kind of the same gauge piece of metal and maybe just cover this up completely. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as it gets to it. You can see also what we have a mount here for. And again, I'm not going to say it because it goes on a YouTube channel, but yeah, you got an idea of kind of what fits here and what would go up here in this collar and get locked into place. And you can see it looks like it is the electrically released. I would assume they would probably had a button on their piece of equipment that would have released this handcuff looking device, allowed this to swing free and allowed them to grab this item, and out the door they go. I haven't found anything else yet, but like I said, we got to go through a nice cleaning, so we may find more as it progresses, and if I find anything interesting, I'll bring you back. But for now, it's just going to be a lot of scrubbing away. You can see a lot of it's just surface. So underneath, the inside looks good. The exterior, I know it doesn't look like it right now, but the exterior actually does look really, really good, other than the dirt. There is this one ding that you can probably see right here. It's dented in, so we'll have to do a little bit of sanding and just do a little bit of touch up. We may get in there behind this and see if we can pop this dent out, but if we can't, again, it's no biggie. And so far, this is like the worst of the wiring I think I found. You can see here that it looks like they kind of just poked a hole through the roof, sealed it up with like this silicone butylene type putty. And if I had to make a guess based on the marks here and here, that it looks like this is probably where their light bar would have sat on the top of the car, and that was more than likely the light power source and control for it. When we get to this, what we'll have to do is take this out. Obviously, we may just round up the hole or clean the hole up if we can, and then we'll get like a cap that you see like on the center trunk there, just a little rubber plug just to kind of plug this up. Or we may get some fiberglass resin, put a fiberglass patch on from underneath, fill it, sand it, prime it, paint it, and do all that fun stuff. I may try to go with the plug option first. But for now, it looks like it's fairly well sealed. I'm not seeing any evidence of water intrusion into the vehicle. And let's take a look at the engine compartment real quick. Yeah, and the engine is dirty, as you would expect. They get to be quite dirty when they're sitting at auction, and one of the reasons for that is just because they sit at the auction for a while, just waiting for title and paperwork and all that to get transferred, cleared, updated, so on and so forth. And sometimes that process takes a couple of months to complete, so the vehicles just kind of sit, unfortunately. It is dirty, it is cleanable. But other than just the kind of surface layer dirt that you naturally would see on pretty much any engine compartment, it looks good. It doesn't look like it's been modified much at all, if any, from its factory 5.7 setup. I'm not seeing any large pools of oil or any other fluids leaking. I'm not seeing any hack jobs into the wiring harness, anything of that nature. The nice thing about these Chargers, police outfitted Chargers, is that it does come with a dual electric fan cooling system. And you can see our wiring harness is actually a 4-wire plug going into our fans, versus most of the time that's just a 2-wire, because the electric fan would normally have a condenser fan in it as well. This one just has a dual fan for the cooling package. Let's see. I should correct myself there. Normally you'd have one electric fan, which would be a condenser fan slash backup fan, and then maybe you'd have like a clutch mounted mechanical fan. And in this one, you can see, just because of the tolerances, that just has 2 electric fans. Let's see. But yeah, other than that, you can see what I can see. It's not terrible. Looks like maybe a little bit of seepage here, but it's not like a complete leak. Other than that, I did notice this other piece on front. You can see where somebody had sprayed some white paint. They probably covered up some kind of scrape, like maybe something like this down here, or some other kind of damage to this bumper cover. And they got some overspray onto the driver's side lens. Again, it's minor, because again, if you know these vehicles, they're pretty much just like the Rams or any other Chrysler product. This whole front piece is just a cover. The bumper structure is actually underneath this. So if we have to, take this off and clean up some defects on it, no harm, no foul, but it doesn't look terrible. It looks completely fine. I'm not seeing like any cracks or damages or dents. I'm not seeing where anything was hit from the front, where it doesn't look like anything's been pushed in, and pulled back out and corrected. So it looks really, really good, at least in my opinion. Now, as far as this motor, I put the question out in the comments. Put what you feel below. We can do a build up on this 5.7, and we can cam this, do an MDS delete, get a nice tune, and so on and so forth, and beef up the internals. Or we can pull this 5.7 out and we can get ourselves a 6.4 liter and drop a 6.4, a built up 6.4 in its place. So right now that's kind of what we're looking at, either building this one up or getting a built 6.4 and just doing a complete swap. So kind of undecided on that one yet. But don't worry, anything that we do decide, we will definitely bring you along for all of it. So I've rambled on long enough. It looks like we're running about 23 minutes. Hopefully this gave you a pretty good idea of what we're looking at here. Like I said, it looks good despite its appearances, and I'll bring you back in the next video and you'll see what it looks like after we have everything cleaned up a bit better. Despite it being dirt, it doesn't really have at all, if any, body damage to it. The Carfax came back really, really clean on this one. And you would expect that with this being a municipality vehicle, as that it's had really good service records. Basically, they've kept up on oil changes, brakes, tires, all the normal maintenance type items as well. So that being said, this is our new project. We're going to start shooting videos on this channel, and I do thank you immensely. And there will be a playlist for this, like there have been for all of our other builds. That will obviously start with this video, and the next one we bring it back on, we'll kind of show you how things look once we have everything cleaned up, and then we'll potentially get into doing some electrical system troubleshooting. Like I said, if our electrical issue still exists once we get a nice fresh battery position there in the trunk. But anyway, I'm rambling too much. I will let you go, and I will bring you back for the next one. And let's just back off here. And with that being said, I thank you much. I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.